I've heard nothing. I really don't know anything.
I don't know how bad the cancer was, because again, he never told me. You know, I don't know. I never asked either. Do you know how bad the cancer was? No. Did he have cancer?
My first reaction with Mark saying he has cancer is he's full of shit. Sorry.
You know, I've heard people doubt it, and I've heard people believe it, that he had some sort of terminal illness. I tend to be on the side that I believed it. I never saw any documentation to prove it, but he told me that, so I was willing to believe that.
He informed me that he had cancer. I felt like a big hole swallowed me in.
He wasn't sick. He was depressed. His disease was depression.
And when he would talk with me, I hadn't seen this piece in him before. He was jumping all over the place. He would talk about lots of different things. The pain in his head, talked a lot about the pain in his head and the pain that he felt, and that he no longer wanted to take any of the medications that he was taking to take care of the pain, that he was done with that, and that he was freeing himself of that. Talked about his kids and that his work here was done, and so things that I wouldn't have necessarily honed in on then at the time, but when you look back, hindsight, and put it all together, it makes more sense.
To me, it was scarier than cancer, because to cancer, you had some answer. To Mark's disease, he kept trying to cover it.
I think the physical cancer that he might have had, or the definite emotional cancer that Mark did have, the debt that he was incurring that he couldn't pay off, the troubles he was having at work that he couldn't deal with, the situation with Nicole, the situation with Christy, some of his other friendships, I guess, were falling apart. All the things that in Mark's life that he felt he could control were no longer within his grasp. Being a control freak, a person who liked to control his surroundings, and being masterful at it for so long, that once he couldn't do it anymore, the only decision he had left was the decision to take his own life.
This is very hard. My mother committed suicide, and I lived with this all my life. And I was afraid that it might be passed on, but then I was told, no, nothing like that ever happens again.
I got a call from Christy Demas, and she said an ambulance just drove by the rec center in South Scottsdale where she worked, which was only probably a 3-iron away from Mark and his parents' house. And she's like, and it sounded like it was going towards Mark's house. I think something's happened to him. And about 2.5 minutes later, she called up again and said that Mark was dead, and it looked like suicide.
I remember the night that he made up a note, and it had everybody's telephone number on it and had everybody's name. He said, if something happens to me. He gave it to me, he told me to put it away. If something happens to me, we were to call all these people. It's like that right there, that should have been a sign to us.
I guess you always want to know what puts people over the top.
Mark was sick. His decision, who wants to understand a decision from somebody that's not there?
He was a victim of some type of cancer. We've talked about emotional as well as physical. The suicide made all of his friends victims, because while he ended his problems, there's where ours began.
I'm not capable or equipped to deal with this. So I was pissed. That was me being selfish.
I think I honestly could have done something. For 12 years of my life, I hung out with Mark Brown every single day.
I had come home from work, and I was the one who found him. And I'll never forget that sight for the rest of my life.
Was it worth it? You know, wherever he is now, was it worth it to himself most of all, and everyone else he left behind?
I have built this world of mine, and I have let it crumble on top of me. Please let everyone know how much I love them. I love you, Mom and Dad. I am so sorry this had to happen. I just let myself be consumed. I had the best friends and family. I love everybody. Please forgive me. I love you. Mark Brown, August 20th, 2001.
It must have been a hard thing for him to do. It must have been a very hard thing to do. And suicide is a mental illness, which that goes hand in hand with the depression.
I don't think any person has ever thought, man, Mark's sick, you know, this is going to cost us a lot of money. You know, man, we're going to have to deal with them. I mean, man, what an inconvenience. I don't think that thought went through anyone's mind, ever. Not even thinking about that, ever. It was, how do we get him better? And how we move forward. And when.
Looking back on it now, this is a decision he made. I can't change it. The words I say can't change it. The things I said before that didn't change it. And I don't think if I had another chance to go back that I could change it. Some things are just the way they are because that's the way they are. You cannot outrun fate. And that was Mark's fate. He came to the end of his line, he made a decision, and he went with it.
If you're digging a hole, the first thing to do is stop digging. So just quit fucking digging deeper and burying yourself with issues and problems.
The problem is that I believe people make choices in life with or without the help of people. You're gonna make a left turn when you're gonna make a left turn, you're gonna make a right turn when you're gonna make a right turn. If they already put it in their head, unfortunately, and it's kind of sad to say, they're gonna do it with you or without you.
It's, I guess I would say, let's hold my hand, let's find some help. I don't know what it is, but I'm there, and don't let go, I'm not letting you go, you know? Let's find somebody, let's look for some answers.
All the cliches aside, it's just gonna fuck with a lot of people, and you're gonna leave a lot of hurt. And I don't think anything you get buried in or weighed down by is heavy enough that you can't get help to get out of it.
You do not want to put your parents or anybody that you know in the predicament that I was in where my son committed suicide. You don't want to do that.
But the main thing is to keep the communication open. And we have people in our family who they think that they can take care of themselves, and the communication stops.
That's a very permanent solution of a very temporary problem. And just have the courage to fix yourself. I need to change. It's so hard to hear when you really say it to yourself.
There is this misconception we have that in times of emotional trauma, that we are all alone. Is that true? Are we alone?
Am I?
We became fast friends.
Fun-loving,
brother.
he liked to work hard, he liked to have fun.
Not even close.